your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have been in the goodness of God. Hey, all my life you have been faithful. Oh, yes, He has. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Oh yeah, I'm so grateful it's running after me. Hallelujah. My life laid down, turn now. I give you everything. Your goodness keeps on running after me. All my life you have been faithful.
We serve a mighty God, do we not? That's the theme song of my talk this morning. I've termed this talk about El Haven, the goodness of God, because He is good. We just had a Sabbath school this morning. Where's Tony? He told us a story this morning and noted how great God was. He's gone now. Yeah, fantastic. Now, I need to... This morning, I want to tell you a story. Actually, it's more than a story, it's a testimony. It's our testimony. And it covers quite a chunk of time, probably the last 10 years. In 2010, Leo Shreven ran a mission. Is that correct? 2010. And Garden City Fellowship was a result of that mission. Can I see the hands of those here who were here at that time? We've since, of course, people have moved on. Some are still here, and we've linked forces with Aranui. But that's where it all began, because Pastor Ben, at that stage, you may remember, it was just a new church. He was teaching every week. He's a little live wire, Pastor Ben, but he wanted for his church to be a missionary church. And he requested somebody to do something in the mission field. Now, Katie, can I see the hands of those who know Katie and Joseph? Katie and Joseph were Ben's Bible workers at the time, and they organised for a group of people in 4 years in a row, from 2013 to 2016, to go to, it happened to be Vanuatu, where we went in 2013, and Luini and Lena, who's not here today, you may not know Lena, but Katie and Joseph and Shirley and I, and Luina and Lena, and Ruth Burns, and Ruth. In 2013, we headed off to Vanuatu. 14, 15, every August we go and spend 2 weeks preaching, and it was an exciting time. But I'm talking today, particularly I want to focus on the year 2015. Because this is where it all began for us. And I've played this song before, but I want to play it again because it was the genesis of this whole idea of Belhaven. Do I just press that, or how do we get that going? Okay, just listen carefully. George Calran, a singing policeman, responded to a call out one morning.
From beginning where you start, half body and me no God. One now me looking at from me and me borrow. From beginning where you start, half body and me no God. We sing him song ya from talent story. When we fall, is calling you. Oh, let me kill you. Time on top, only good of you. Time you born, it can't no more. You know, sabe want something. My mind, you know, want them you. He make him dead, let me carry out you.
Tragic. Quite tragic. That's the reality. That is the reality, present tense, in Vanuatu and possibly many other places. I don't know, but all I know is that in Vanuatu, lives are being lost on a regular basis. I want to introduce you to three ladies. Two of them you know. One of them I hope you meet one day. The lady in the middle is named Pastor Dorlin Lalawai, who was at that time the Women's and Children's Ministries leader in the Vanuatu mission. When she heard that song, God spoke to her. Can I see the hands of those who've had God speak to them? Yeah, we have. Impressions, strong impressions. Can I see the hands of anybody who has had the voice of God speak to them? Happens less frequently, but yes, I see hands. I had one experience, and that was enough for a lifetime for me. God spoke to Dorlin, and she realised that she had to do something about that situation. Endemic in Vanuatu, never talked about publicly, but everyone knew about it. And so from that point on, she decided to find a building or build a building. And for a year and a half, she struggled. There's no money in Vanuatu, and she came to a dead end. Meanwhile, The lady on the left of that shot, Pastor Katie, just before our third missionary trip to Vanuatu, she was on holidays. And she was wondering whether her uncle had died, and she wondered, as a close relative, whether she's going to get any money from that. That's perfectly natural. I do the same thing myself. So she was thinking about whether and if and what she might do with that money. When a voice came to her, as clear as a bell, a voice, an actual voice, said, "Katie, the money that you are getting from your uncle's inheritance is not for you. It's to start an orphanage." And I want you to remember the word orphanage. I want you to imagine that happening to you. God calling your name. She was surprised, baffled, didn't quite know how to deal with that. And so she put it out of her mind, went on with the cleaning. An hour later, those same words, "Katie, the money that you're getting from your uncle's inheritance is not for you. It's to start an orphanage." And she knew, being a woman of God, that was rather important. Twice repeated, it sort of raises the level, the bar a little bit. And so she went to her husband and said, "Joseph, I can tell you two things. One, that we are getting an inheritance, but two, it has to go to some orphanage." Katie had no idea where, when, or how, or what that message meant. A week later, she was still bubbling with that, as I would be. If you've been told to do something, you want to know what and where and how, wouldn't you? And so we met, we got on the plane for Vanuatu, our missions trip. There were the 7 of us. And we flew from Auckland to Port Vila. That day, we had to take an extra flight an hour north to the island of Santo, where we were to meet our host, Pastor Titus. But that day, that flight had been cancelled. There was some problem with the aircraft. The people across the counter from the airline said, "Sorry, here's 3 meal tickets and you go to this hotel. But come back tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock for the onward flight. There is a flight at 7 o'clock, but you won't get on that." And so we went away happily and enjoyed a meal, went to bed. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, a loud knock on our door. It was Joseph. Joseph said, "You'll need to get out of bed and get dressed and come down to the front. Katie is insistent that we've got to be on the 7 o'clock flight." And so we were obedient. We understood what was in the back of Katie's mind. She's explained this, how she was all a little bit overwrought. We arrived at the airport duly at 6 o'clock, much to the surprise of the people behind the counter. They said, "Well, we did indicate that you couldn't come this morning, couldn't fly this morning. There's certainly no room. The flight didn't fly yesterday. It's overbooked for today. There's no chance, not a ghost of a chance, that you'll get on the 7 o'clock flight." They said, "But we'll book your bags through." And there were lots of them. If you knew Katie, I think we might have had 20 extra bags of clothes and stuff to give away, shoes and everything. But they booked those bags through and said, "Now, look," they told us to just go away, enjoy the day, come back at 3:45. Well, we went away, 10 metres, sat down quietly in the back row and prayed. And at 6:55, you know what's happened? What happened, rather. At 6:55, we were called forward and told that we could board that flight. Now, I got interested. Katie was always excited, but I began to be excited at this point because I felt that God was working something here. We got on the flight that we shouldn't have been on, weren't booked on. Anybody ever done that before? And we sat all over the plane, wherever we could find a seat. Katie happened to sit up the front in the 2 seats up there, and she sat next to another white woman, an Evan, and as they got talking, Katie, good on you, Marcus. I might need that, thank you. They got talking, and the white woman said, Seventh-day Adventist. She said, I only know one Seventh-day Adventist, and she's a wonderful woman. I don't know her name, I don't know what she does, but a card is on my fridge. But this woman, she said, in this country we have a problem. When a girl gets pregnant through rape or incest or just poor choices, frequently she does not want what's in her belly. And all too often, some of those go bush, have the baby and abandon it to dogs and rats, or drop it over the boat, or down a long drop toilet. Shocked. Katie was. But then the woman went on, this woman that I'm telling you about has responded to that problem in our society and wants to build what? An orphanage. I told you to remember that word. An orphanage. And when that happened, I saw Katie nearly jump out of a chair and shriek. Here, then, was part answer to her voice. Well, we went and did our preaching. Baptism over. The woman had told her to come back, given her phone number, the woman sitting next to her on the plane, given her a phone number and said, ring me when you come back into town, Port Vila, I'll be here and I'll tell you all about this woman and give you her details. So on a flight, thousands of feet above the jungles of Vanuatu, the mission of El Haven became clear. That's where it all began, when those two halves of the same story came together. When we got back into Port Vila on, I think it was a Sunday, we sat down in the office, under the mission office. Luini, you remember sitting down and we chatted about what we'd done and what we could do better. But Katie could only think of one thing. She had met Pastor Dorlin and talked. And she said, we've got to build a building. We've got to get it started right away. We've got to buy some land. And Katie said, Shirley said, just hold on a second, Katie. That's going to cost a lot of money. And it needs a builder. Who is going to do that? Shirley tends to be a little skeptical at times. And I well remember Katie's words, quote, and that, Mrs. Shirley, would be you. And so we, all of a sudden, became involved in Katie's dream, and we have been ever since. Well, that was 10 years ago. We started that building after Shirley had gone home, planned the building. I should tell you that when we had decided to become involved, the next year we met Dorlin for the first time ourselves. And now Dorlin, with the dream revived, she had almost given up on that dream of El Haven. She was all excited. And Shirley said to her, what do you need? Well, what's our first thing? What do we got to do? And Dorlin said, we need some land. Wow, said Shirley, that's just right up my alley. She's quite a buyer and seller of lands and houses. She said, let's go and do it. And we went to the estate agent and said, listen, we need a piece of land, a little secluded, a little quiet, got to be quite big, etc. Whoa, said the estate agent. Kardua and, forgotten the name of them even now, Kayard and Kardua. They said, we've only got one piece of land on our books that comes anywhere near that. Let's go, said Shirley. We hopped in the car and went out to the land. And when we looked at that piece of land, it was a sloping block, sort of manicured into 3 levels top level, 3 metre drop, middle level, 3 metre drop, bottom level into the creek. 100 metres by 40 metres by 100 metres. Quite a chunk of land. And I remember Dorland's word. She was all excited. She said, this is, what was the word? Perfect. And so we went back to the estate agent. Shirley's brother had given her $500. Said, sis, you need this before you go. You can use it better than me. Doesn't matter what you use it for. We went in and talked to the estate agent. That block of land was owned by a white man who had enough of the Pacific and had gone back to Australia. It had been on the market for $120,000. He had reduced it to 60. Shirley offered 40. It was accepted and we put a $500 deposit down. Now, how's our time going here? All right, I better wrap this up. We haven't got time to tell you all the stories. I could go on here for hours. God is a great God, as our theme song said. And you all know that. God has given you things to do in your life. And you know that when He gives you a job to do, when He commissions you to do something, He supplies the means to do it, and He's with you till the end. That's the focus of Elhaven. A girl with a newborn, probably a first one, been through a terrifying experience if she's been bush, but this one was saved. That's our first one. I don't know her name. She hasn't given me permission to use that image, but I do anyway. The focus of Elhaven. Shirley went home, as I said, and planned a building, took it to an engineer, got it engineered to the worst earthquake and the worst cyclone in Vanuatu. They asked $40,000 for those plans, by the way, engineering plans. And we didn't have the money, but we got started anyway. We were given permission to go ahead. And so that big H, double story, is what's on the plans. 30 pages of them. And we set out, we started at the beginning. We had a little shack built for ourselves, 5 by 3, tin shed. That's where we live. And it's a lovely place. Every time we open the door, we think this is home because there's just room for a double bed. I built the bed myself, so there's plenty of room for cases underneath it, etc. That's where we live, with a fan and with running water. Then the next level, we had 2 containers come, one from this country. Did anybody put anything into that container? Carol nodding. Good on you, mate. All that has been put aside into the storage shed, which we had built, and that really took us out to about 2019. In 2020, Shirley and I were still there, working with just the locals. They didn't know how to build. Shirley was carefully reading the plans and following them, and we had dug the trenches, filled them with $100,000 worth of concrete and steel. And that's where we were. Whoops, what have I done now? Hey, not that fast. That's where we had got to in 2020. It took us a year to build all those, to dig. It's coral rock. It's not easily dug. But that's where we were. That's just the top part of the H. I couldn't get everything in. You've all heard of COVID. In 2020, January, the word COVID was being voiced around the village, and we learned that the borders were going to be closed in Vanuatu. We had a choice, stay there or leave. We couldn't stay there. We could only get visitors visas. They were 30 days at that point. So we had to go out. But just before we got out, we met a man who said that he knew how to lay concrete, because that's what's needed now. We needed some concrete, found a concrete laid on top of them, the slabs, in order to build. His name was Eric. And I checked what buildings he had done, and apparently he could do the job. I said, how are we going to pay you? He said, well, why don't you just check with Fletcher's? I haven't mentioned Fletcher's to this point. I don't know how to get all this story in, but Fletcher's, we had gone to Fletcher's, Shirley had gone to Fletcher's boldly and asked them if Fletcher's Vanuatu would build this whole thing for nothing. Now, it was a bold, they declined. They said, no, the cyclone has just come through. We've helped a lot there. Can't do it. But Fletcher's stayed with us. They know what the El Haven is all about. And they've supplied heavy machinery and diggers and cranes throughout this whole period, mostly for nothing, just paying the wages of the men. When we came back after, 2 years later, that Eric and his men had built quite a large chunk of El Haven. You can see we're looking up the H at the moment. So that's the front of the building on the immediate foreground left, and the rear of the building has got some double story on it, and the right hand, we haven't built in the section because we couldn't build the foundations of the fore part because the crane had to get the roof trusses on first. And now, that's a little bit early, let's just go to the next one. The roof trusses are on that part of the building. The roof trusses cost us $100,000. They are on, and so now we can continue with the forefront of the building. I've got to tell you that a major change has happened. For the last 7 years, you and people here in our church know that we've been away frequently. We're seldom here, and that's where we've been mostly. You've heard of El Haven, but you've never heard the story because I've never told it here. We've been working steadily behind the scenes with a local crew, mostly of people who didn't know what to do, but we were able to direct them. I turned 82 at Christmas. Shirley has just turned 81. And I believe God has spoken to us, not in a voice this time, but quite definitely that we need to change our approach. Everybody who has supported us have been saying, let's get started. When are we going to finish? And so we have agreed that we're going to get Fletcher's, and Fletcher's have agreed to finish the job quickly and professionally. And we're going back in a couple of weeks to get that contract signed. They've already said they'll do it. They've already given us a quote. I don't hasten to mention the amount of money, but basically it's about $700,000. Say it quickly, it's really only the cost of a small house here. But that's what they require to finish both floors, do the job, get it all finished so that it can be commissioned. We have a team in waiting, a management plan in waiting, all ready to go. And they have been, Pastor Doran will be the matron, I guess, and we have been, these ladies, another lady will be managing the whole show. They've been saying, we're getting old. So that's why we have decided to change our approach, and that's why I have decided to write to every relative, every friend, every one of you. You're going to get a letter today explaining where we're up to and why, and I'm going to invite you for the first time ever in this church. If the Holy Spirit has spoken to you this morning and you would like to give something, give. Remembering that our church is not a wealthy church. I don't expect anything. But if God speaks to you, do something. That's where I'd like to finish. We've got so much to say. We will just finish there. Darl, you want to give those out at the end when people go out? Might be the best thing. Let's just have a prayer, and I'll invite the singers up. You got another song, Ada? Yeah, good on you. Come on up. And I'll pray at the end of that, I think.
Yeah.
Hello.
let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of all of us. Faith is the victory. Let us sing and praise God's name. And faith is the victory.
Encamped along the hills of life, these Christian soldiers ride and press the battle of the night, shall veil the glory sky against the fallen heaven. Let all the strength return. Faith is the victory we know that overcomes the world. Faith is the victory. Faith is the victory. Oh, glory, the victory that overcomes the world. To him who overcomes the foe, thy name shall be given. Before the angels shout and know his name confessed in heaven, and all that from the hills of life and hearts is let us sing. Will thank his all the hosts of God in Jesus' concrete name. Praise the victory. Praise the victory. Oh, glory, the victory that overcomes the world.
Thank you guys for that beautiful music, and thank you, Leon, for the message, the story, telling the story of Al Haven. That is definitely sounds like there's been an enormous amount of work and effort that's gone into that, and a very, very worthy project to get behind. Just before we close, we're going to have a short announcement, so you can be seated. And yes, we do have a little announcement, or rather a fairly large announcement. It's quite difficult to figure out how exactly to say this in the right time to say this. But as you know, I've been with you now since, I believe it was August of last year, and I've really enjoyed my time here at Aranui Garden City. There are some very special things about this church that I really, value, and I've really loved getting to know all of you. But over the past year and a half, really, I've been reflecting and doing a lot of thinking about where do I want to go personally and professionally. And I've come to the conclusion that pastoral ministry is not something that I want to continue to do for the rest of my time. So I have chosen to resign and transition into a new career. And I realize this is probably going to come as a shock to a few of you. It has been communicated to the board, and now we're making this public to the wider church. So I recognize that, this is going to lead to more change, but I want you to rest assured that the board is going to be working with the conference to create a plan for the period when I'll be departing, and that the church is going to be in good hands. I do know that the conference has found a replacement, but there will be a gap of some sort between my departure and the arrival of the new person. I think he's coming from out of country. So I want to reiterate, I